Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this new episode of your program, Spectra. Emigration and immigration are two things that people have resorted to and still resort to until today to escape atrocities, ethnic cleansing, genocide, ethnocide, and sometimes seeking a better life. They need better education, more safety, a better economic life. But what is the meaning of immigration with an I? What is the real meaning of that? Who's an immigrant? And what does it take for an immigrant to be a national, a citizen, a native? To delve deeper into this, I'm really delighted to be accompanied by a certified translator and an immigration consultant, Shireen Ibrahim. Shireen, hello and welcome to the program.
Hello, Mohammed. How are you? Thank you for hosting me today. It's a pleasure.
It's a real pleasure. I'm really happy to have you again with us on the program. I had the pleasure of hosting you a couple of years before, and definitely looking forward to another very fruitful discussion. And as our viewers will see, this will be more of a discussion rather than a very strict official interview. So, Shireen, you are an immigration consultant today, but before becoming an immigration consultant a couple of years ago, you are a new immigrant, like all the other new immigrants. And to become an immigration consultant, you needed to make some studies and whatnot. So can you compare your understanding of the word immigration and immigrant when you first came here to Canada as a brand new immigrant and before studying anything about the laws of immigration and whatnot? And how is it different today, now that you are a Canadian citizen and now that you are an immigration consultant?
This is a very good question, actually, because I've been an immigrant myself. I came to Canada in 2010. I came here with my family, not knowing what's going to happen to us. We had no jobs. We came here to find our way around, looking for a job. Finding a way to qualify and be eligible for the jobs here. They requested us to have Canadian experience. We had children that we wanted to put in schools. We're looking forward to put them in the best schools in the country or wherever we live. So it was a challenge. Actually, it was a real challenge at that time because it's so unknown. We had friends, we had relatives, but it was very unknown. We're coming to somewhere that is really very vague. We were not able to identify exactly what we are going to do next. So I believe it's a challenge for every immigrant when they come here. They don't know what they're going to do, actually. What's their next step? First thing, they want to look for a job. Then they are faced with the Canadian experience concept, like how do I qualify? How do I get a Canadian experience if I don't have a job? Then it started rolling as soon as we put in our mind that we'll do it, and it is what it is.
So let's go through your own journey. So, according to specialists, they usually say that an immigrant passes through 5 different phases. But actually, not all immigrants will pass through these 5 different phases. So the first one would be the honeymoon phase. The first one is the honeymoon phase, where you're just a brand new immigrant. So you think of it as a tour. You're a tourist more than an immigrant, actually, or you're really fascinated by all the new scenes and tastes and sounds and everything like that. Did you pass through this phase? Did you have this phase at the beginning or not?
Uh, to some extent, I had this phase.
Mm,
When I came, I was looking forward to discover Canada, how beautiful it is,
okay.
visiting Niagara Falls. Everything is clean and organized. So I was really fascinated in the beginning. And it was a short honeymoon, though, because I had to face the challenge that I spoke to you about, which is like basically to settle, to put the kids in school, to look for a job. So everything was a lot. Yeah, I would say it was a short honeymoon.
Yeah, definitely. And usually it is the shortest phase of all of them. And I think the reason they called it a honeymoon was not for nothing. They had something in mind. That's why they chose honeymoon for it. But the second phase, they usually say that immigrants pass through a phase of rejection. They start rejecting everything that is different from their country of origin, like different sights, different sounds, different food, different customs, costumes, traditions, etc., etc. Did you pass through this phase? Oh,
I can say I passed this phase because I myself have been away from my home country for more than 20 years. So
okay.
I lived in the Middle East in different countries. I moved from one country to the other because at that time my husband was working in a multinational, so we had to move from one country to another. Uh, so I was more of open to accept differences because
hmm
this phase I met this phase in the beginning when I started my life when I was very young and started moving from one country to another. But by the time I learned that differences exist and it's not in our hands to change them, it's our role to adapt rather than change.
So, to what extent do you think this affected you, Shireen? Like how much did traveling to different countries before coming to Canada help you in overcoming or totally avoiding this rejection phase?
It was very helpful. This was a real helpful experience because when I arrived to Canada, uh, I was not surprised to see all these challenges. I expected them.
Mhm.
Uh, I knew they exist, and I knew that it's more diverse than whatever countries I saw due to the basically Canada is based on immigrants from all over the world. So I was expecting that, which made it easier for me to integrate and to what I can say here is expect,
Mhm.
forecast what's going to happen and not reject it. So it was really helpful, and I see this happens always with immigrants coming from overseas rather than coming directly from their home country.
Oh, so you think if there's a transitional period, like between your country of origin and Canada, usually, or like the new adoptive country, whatever that may be, but here we're mostly talking about Canada, this would really help you in settling in and adapting.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And did you ever pass through the third phase, which is the regression phase? Did you ever regret coming to Canada, like not only going back to your country of origin, maybe going back to the Middle East where you were before? Did you ever go through this phase? You felt you regretted coming, like, why did I do this? Why did my husband or why did I leave this great job we had, this beautiful house we had, this good money we had? Did you ever pass through this stage?
I can't describe it as regression or I did the wrong decision or why is this happening to me? Why did I take this? It's more of like I was longing or I was missing the life or my comfort zone that I
Mhm.
used to be. That I can call it a comfort zone rather than anything else because we get to be comfortable wherever we are, especially if you're coming from the Middle East, where many facilities and obviously people who lived in the Middle East will understand this because we can say we are spoiled somehow there. And so we miss this phase. We miss the being spoiled. We miss the luxury life. We miss living in a consistent supportive environment. When we come to Canada, we find it's more of a hard work, and everyone is doing it. So it's not a regret, more than that, okay, I'll have to change. I'll have to do something different from what I'm used to do. Am I ready to do this or not? So this is, everyone is different in this phase. For me, I was ready because my pull factors to Canada were more than my push factors, where my kids were going to schools, universities. So I was looking forward for them to have the best education, best organized environment, an equal society. So all these things were a pull factor to Canada rather than a push factor. And I would say I don't regret it. And I still don't regret it.
Perfect, perfect. So we will get, to this point later on because you tackled a very important, point here. But let's move to the next phase, the fourth phase, which is ease at last. How long did it take you to feel the ease, to feel that the burdens taken off your shoulder? How long did that take for you to, did it take for this to happen?
It took me around 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
5 years. I see 5 years is usually um, a reasonable amount of time where people, or I'll talk about myself here, when I started to feel that I belong to this society and I know how to handle my life here, how to understand people, how to understand, especially when I started to work. When I got the job, when I started to work, I started as a volunteer, then I started working. At that time, it accelerated my understanding and my integration, because when I was at home, it was hard. It was much harder to feel the what's going on around me. But when I started volunteering and working, it was much easier, and it accelerated all this phase very much.
So, talking about some basic factors, so your knowledge of the language, your family, working. So, if we want to put them like in ascending order, so number one is the least and number three is the most, which one of them was the most helpful? Which one was like, they're all helpful. I don't want to say the least. Okay. Because especially when we talk about family, I don't think you can afford to say the least about your family. No one can afford to say that. But if we want to say like they're all important, very important, but if we want to put them, or let's say it in another way, like, do you think that all of these three factors were extremely important? Do you think if you had a different family support system, or you didn't start your job, or you're struggling with the language, do you think your life would have been really different?
Although family is very important, but I believe in this situation, language is as important.
Mhm.
Knowing the language, it's really important, and it's really crucial in understanding what's going on. You come here and everyone is speaking a language. Imagine that you went to China, for example, and
Mhm.
everyone is speaking Chinese, and you're the only one there, and you don't know what's going around you. Are people happy? Are people sad? Do they like you? They don't like you? They want to buy something. They talk to you. They don't understand. So it's really important for people who really plan to come to a new country, whatever it is. It's important that they learn the language of this country.
And again, if we talk about the language here, are we talking about the verbal, the lexicon, or are we talking about the mental language as well? Because you lived in a multicultural environment before coming to Canada. Maybe it wasn't as multicultural as Canada, but you've tried dealing with other cultures. Do you think this also played an important role, or is it just the knowledge of the dictionary language?
Uh, it's not necessarily the dictionary language, it's the mental language as well.
Mm.
Uh, because as much as you understand the language, you have to understand that people think differently. People
Hmm.
are different
Okay.
backgrounds. Everyone has their own beliefs, they have their own style of living, they have their own uh, uh, method of thoughts, and we have to accept this whether we want or not. But
Mhm.
it exists. It's a fact, and it exists. So coming from a background of diversity, like I've been living in Dubai for a bit, and Dubai is known for also diversity. We have people from Asian, we have European, we have people from the North America and from the Arab world, and the Middle East. So it's also diverse, and we at that time people understand that people are different, and we have to accept this whether we want or not.
Okay, coming to the last phase, which is counterculture shock phase. During this phase, it's exactly the opposite of how the whole story started. So in the counterculture shock phase is that when you go back to your country of origin or to your previous adoptive country, you're always looking at your watch. You're longing to go back to your new adoptive country. Like, did you reach this stage that whenever you leave Canada, you can enjoy your time, you're happy, yes, but to an extent? Do you think you've reached this stage? And if yes, how long did it take you to reach it?
uh well, actually, I haven't
Hmm.
reached this stage yet. uh,
Okay.
i I don't look at my watch when I'm back home and looking forward to go back to Canada, but I still love living in Canada. I like very much living here. I feel I belong here, my home, my family, my friends. So I feel like I feel balanced in this area, honestly,
Mhm.
that I never felt alien to either communities, whether here in Canada or back home, which makes it my life easier because
Okay.
yeah, I know that one day I'll be here, one day I'll be there. So we are not sure. Like maybe because I traveled a lot, I acquired a bit of flexibility with adjustment.
Okay, perfect. So now, if we can ask Shireen of today to give an advice to Shireen of yesterday. So now, Shireen, the Canadian citizen and the immigration consultant, what kind of advice would you give to your old self? If you can
Very
give her an advice, what would you tell her to do?
an excellent question. I like this question because I always wonder what I would have done differently if I came.
Yeah. So if you can whisper in your
Yeah.
older, self ear, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to um, the challenge actually was, I didn't mention this in the beginning, the main challenge was that because I know the language and because I'm educated, because I have got a professional experience that is solid, I expected to get a job easily in Canada.
Hmm.
Uh, and I kept resisting that I don't need the Canadian experience. I don't. Why do they not accept me in this job? Why they are not? I'm being interviewed. I'm much better than all those people who came for the interview. And people used to tell me, okay, go to the newcomer centers, take some courses for the business, volunteer. And I tell them, why do I need to do that? I've been all over the world. I know lots of things. I know how to do the job. Like I know it. So why they don't accept me? And eventually, when I gave up. I had to start somewhere. So I started volunteering, and then I understood it's not my skills, it's not my knowledge that they need. They also want to know if I accept the integration, if I accept
Hmm.
the differences, if I can work within a community that comes from all over the world peacefully. And this is really important. I would have started earlier volunteering. I would have started earlier accepting jobs that are below my expectations, income that is below my expectations. I would have done this earlier when I came, but because we are coming from somewhere else, we don't know. So I would have not resisted as much if the time comes But again, if I wouldn't resist this part, I would be more humble in accepting the situation in Canada and the job market, how it works.
Perfect. You just mentioned the magic word here, more humble. So, why is it that people usually come from the Middle East and specifically the Gulf states, um, or people who would consider themselves to be of the elite class in the Middle East, why are they the people who suffer the most? And today, do you really think that they really suffer because Canada is such a bad country? Or is it, like, let me tell you this, like when I first um, applied to immigration here to Canada, and I remember the immigration lawyer, I was talking to him, and then I was telling him, like, how does it feel to arrive to Canada? Like, he's an old Canadian, and he's also from the Middle East. He's originally from the Middle East, like myself. So I asked him, like, how does it feel? And he told me it just feels like when you sit in a dark room for a long time and then you go out in the sun. What happens? I told him, yeah, like I would blink, it would hurt my eye. Yes, told me exactly. And then he told me, does this mean that the sunlight is bad? I told him no. He told me your eyes will hurt in the beginning just to get used to the sunlight. So do you think humility, being humble, is the problem, really? Because how can you be like all the convenience that people would enjoy in the Middle East comes from service. And for me to receive service, I must have a servant. For every one master, there are at least 10 servants. And I wonder, did you ever think of trading places with the people who serve you? Because people would always think, oh, I'm served. But how about if you trade places with the people who serve you? How about if you trade places with somebody who is older than your father, but he has to carry your bag for you or carry your groceries for you and wait for you to give them a tip, and they should be so grateful to you. And you would call them, hey, you, and they would call you ma'am or sir. Did you ever think about this?
At the time, I never thought about this because this was the dynamics of the society. No one ever judged or put an opinion about this. This is how it works. We came here. This was working, and it kept working. It will still continue to work because these people need jobs. These people need the money, and it's hierarchical. So I don't think it's a matter of like we don't stop to judge. We don't stop to evaluate this kind of hierarchy within the society. It and again, when we came to Canada, we are not judging the hierarchy as well.
Mm-hmm.
We, as you said, like it's a bit of different. It's different, and we pause and think, oh, how is this happening? Why it's happening? Why is he not telling me ma'am? Why is she not telling me ma'am, for example? But again, it's it's the dynamics of the society. There is no disrespect to anything. There is no disrespect to anyone, but it's how the society works and how people move from their comfort zone to another place where they have to adjust. So is adjustment. Adjustment is the key word in this immigration
And
journey.
how do you see both worlds now, Shireen? Like when you look at the world of hierarchy, sir, ma'am, your excellency, etc., 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 and people just having to apple polish you and I'm sorry, they have to kiss up just to get a tip from you. And compared to here, where you would just call everybody by name and you're free to express yourself. You cannot have a servant who would sleep at 2 a.m. serving them the the adult masters and then waking up at 6 a.m. with the children masters. We don't have this in Canada. Well,
Yeah.
in these other rich states where there's a lot of luxury and convenience, this happens all the time.
Yeah. Personally, I did not encounter this kind of uh, I would say unjust treatment.
Maybe, yes, you are a good
Maybe
person. You,
in this situation, yeah, I know. Uh, maybe in this situation, I would say, and I always said, like, this is not fair. Like, this is not fair. Like, uh, he's an employee. He should be treated as an employee. He has to work a certain number of hours. He needs to sleep. She needs to sleep. They need to eat. They need to have a personal life. They have a work-life balance. So I think now looking back, uh, I did not accept it at the time, and I still don't accept it that much. It's good to be spoiled. It's good to be served. But again, this person needs to have the rights as an employee. He's an employee. He's not my slave. He's not a slave.
and how did it feel that, okay, with all the convenience and joy, but at any time I can be kicked out of heaven? Because no matter how long I stay, I'm never a citizen. I'm never even a permanent resident. So if I stay for 60 years there, and once I leave, next time I need to apply for a visa, and they can accept it or not. And on the other hand, a citizen who's much less educated, much less knowledgeable than me, much younger in age, can be my boss. How did this feel to you?
Again, I felt at the time that it wasn't fair for those who are uh, qualified and who deserve good positions and professional life, and they're very successful, to be kicked out, or to their professional life is pending on the boss's decision every year when they evaluate him or decide to have some kind of nationalization, bringing a citizen person instead of this position. But again, it's the dynamics of the society. It's their world, and they decide whatever they want. They want to have it run this way. It's their world, and we have to accept it. So our role is to be ready with a B plan, not just wait for to be kicked out or leave. Luckily, we can go back to Egypt. We have a home, but honestly, some people, they don't have another option. So it's really scary. And at one point in time, places like Canada are the only resort, and it's great to have this option.
Yeah, so it's an entirely different matter, of course. Like, since day one, you're like you enjoy all the rights of a citizen, with the exception of the political rights and the passport. And then later on, you are part and parcel of this fabric, not only you, but your children and grandchildren, et cetera, et cetera. And you stand shoulder to shoulder with any other Canadian. You have political rights, you can express, and so on and so forth. Um,
It's amazing.
so to you, like, what does it take if we want to maybe give a prescription here? What does it take for you to become um, a national? I wouldn't only just have a citizen, but to become a native of a specific country. What are the do's and don'ts? What are the boosters and what are the impediments? What are the obstacles in your way? And what kind of things would push you forward?
I would start with a big obstacle here, which is not accepting the change. Not
Mhm.
accepting the change will always stay as a barrier. It's a wall between you and the new community. How can you integrate? How can you work? How can you have friends if you are not accepting that you are new to this country? You are new, you have to start, maybe you have to start from scratch.
Mhm.
There is no stigma about this, like nothing is wrong with starting from scratch. So the moment you get into this country, you have to put all your greatness behind you. how much you did, how much you reached, how long you worked. You have to put all this behind you and start. You decided to come here. You wanted to come to Canada, then you'll have to play their way. You have to work. You have to start from maybe an entry job. Maybe you'll have to accept working. Maybe you're a doctor and you'll have to work as an Uber for a while until you do your evaluation and your certification and licensing and become a doctor again. So this is how it works in this country. So if you decide to move voluntarily, and voluntarily meaning like I applied for immigration and I wanted to come. I'm not like, for example, I'm not a refugee. I don't have a war in my country, so I'm pushed to come here and like I'm facing these problems. But if I decide, so I had the time to prepare, to read what is going on. I have the time to ask people, how does it work in Canada? How did you find a job? What's the best approach? What's the best practice? So accepting, researching, do your homework, be humble, be modest, work on your skills as needed. Do not assume that your skills will be welcomed here in Canada. Maybe this is not the case. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe you are not a pleasant person. Maybe you're not a team worker. So you have to find out how it works, how the dynamics of this country works, how to integrate. So you had the time to prepare, same like any project, and prepare yourself for the new country. Don't wait.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'm sorry, cut you off.
You don't have to wait until you come and then you start thinking what's going on.
And what is the antidote or like, the overinflated ego over false, misconceptions that you might have? Because here in Canada, for instance, a job like a farmer and a job like a nurse are among the very, very top respectable jobs in Canada. A firefighter is one of the most respected jobs here in Canada. These jobs usually come, in the lowest categories in most other countries. And many of the jobs that people would think, so here, for example, a nurse is much more respected than a doctor because she does a much more valuable job. So here they look at the essence of the job. The real caretaker, the person who really takes good care of your health, and the person who your health depends on the most is the nurse, not the doctor. So she deserves most respect. Here, no doctor would dare speak to a nurse in an improper way at all. On the contrary, actually, the nurse might give instructions to a physician. So what are the antidotes? And actually, this is not only true in Canada. Canada is one of the most advanced countries on the planet. It is always competing for the first or second place in terms of quality of living on this planet too. But all the top other countries in the world do not have these jobs as physician or engineer, blah, 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 on top at all. So what does it take to wake up? What does it take to wake up from this wicked dream that people live in backward countries?
Yeah, it's respect. A job is a job. Everyone is doing a job. He deserves to be respected, whatever he's doing, whatever his education is. If he's doing his job and he's earning a respectful living and his money is legit, then he deserves all the respect. There is no lower job. There is no higher job. There is a harder job, there is an easier job maybe, but there is no a lower job. I don't believe in that. Now that we are on the other side of the world, I don't believe there is a job that is more important than the other. If the person who doesn't collect my waste from the curb, we will live in a mess. If she's not doing her job, the hospitals will suffer, patients will suffer. If the doctor doesn't come, patients will suffer. So everyone is doing their job. If everyone is doing their job correctly and respectfully, they deserve all the respect. There is no a better job. This is something that we should all, especially those who come from overseas, should accept, that everyone is doing their job and they're doing it the right way. We should respect them. We can't demean anyone. We can't look down at anyone because he has high school, or he's a doctor, or he's a bachelor. There is no such thing. Nothing exists like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And here in Canada, you'd find at the same table people with all walks of life sitting together as lifelong friends. And like you would have your best buddy for life sitting next to you, and you might have they might have finished high school, and another person might be having, like, their PhDs, and they're stand head to head, actually. And again, if we look at the percentage of people having PhDs in the Canadian government, it would be less than any country in the Middle East. Not only in Canada, all the most advanced countries in the world, the percentage of PhD holders is much less than any country in the third world. So it's not a matter of these titles. Like, if you carry an academic title, does not make you a smarter person, does not make you a better person, does not make you a better job doer at all.
Exactly. And it's the equality here is I really respect the equality here, because like the PhD person and the grade 6 person, they stand in the line and wait for their turn to go on the bus, or go to have a service in any with any public servant in any organization. So everyone respects their role, respect their work, respect their, so if, and they are served the same way. There is no one served less or more because they work like this, or because they come from a big family, or there is no such thing. There is no such thing. And this is a very well respected characteristic in Canada.
And nobody strives to carry a title for the title itself, with the exception maybe from some new immigrants from the Middle East. So, like, nobody here would try to acquire a PhD just to be called Dr. So-and-so. Nobody would do this. Like, nobody, like, if they're seen by Canadian society as insane people, just insane people. So if you don't really need it, you don't do it. You only need what you do what you need only, nothing for the show off. Because if you take your PhD, it does not take you 1% higher in the respect of, in the eyes of people.
Yes.
If you have a high school degree, if you have a PhD, you're not 1% better than the other one at all. It would only make a difference if you were planning to work in academia or something like that. Other than that, it's worthless.
Exactly. That's the
And
case.
yeah, and this is the big. So what would you tell today, like, um, you know, um, because maybe both of us, we have firsthand experience working with new immigrants and whatnot. Um, what would you say to new immigrants? So somebody cannot find a job, but they get a job to work in sales, for example, sales for, let's say, credit cards, and they would go at a grocery store and try to sell these credit cards. But they say, no, I'll not take this job. And they prefer to stay at home rather than do this job. What would you tell them?
I actually met these people during my work as a settlement counselor in one of the newcomer centers. And I saw these new immigrants coming and saying, no, I would never work like that. This is very humiliating. I'm a doctor. I'm an engineer. You know what I had back home? I was a manager of 85 people in my company, and I had 10 people serving me in the office. Now you want me to stand in a supermarket and say, like, buy from me a credit card? Do you want me to go to Dollarama and sell stuff? No way. And they stayed at home. And these people actually, they were behind. They were always behind. Like if they have started at that time, they would have reached much faster what they were looking for, because it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time and persistence. Those who started immediately after they came and they accepted the situation and the work, the labor market, how it works, and they did what they have to do, they were much faster in reaching their goals. Because they dealt with many people, they spoke to many people, so they were able to find their compass. They wanted to start working as an accountant. They know people, they have a network, because network is very important. Networking is very important here. If you don't know anyone because you're staying at home, who can help you? Who will be able to help you? You need all the help and support from your network. So this is how it works. One step leads to another. One step leads to another. But if you decide to be laid back and live in your shell, it will not take you anywhere. Nowhere you can reach your goals of working as you want it to be. You have to start. Start the moment you step in Canada. Do your work, do your homework. If your English is not good, start learning English. If you're, there are so many facilities, many newcomers, centers to help people, to give them choices, to give them volunteer work. Start somewhere. You have to start and accept what is given to you. Don't resist. Just start, and things will keep going. The ball will roll. If it doesn't roll, you will be at home all the time, depressed, saying, no, I'm going back. I can't live here anymore. I have to go back wherever I came from. This is not the lifestyle I wanted. So it's your choice. It's their choice at the end of the day, what you want to do. Do you want to live doing nothing? Do you want to go back to where you came from, or do you want to go forward? So it's their choice, the immigrant's choice.
Absolutely. And last but never least, really, is the second generation. So how do you see this, or what kind of advice would you give when I'm resisting working as a salesperson for credit cards, but at the same time, my son or daughter are super happy to work at a kitchen and at the same time take the garbage out and clean the washrooms at a restaurant. And they are so proud of it, and they would invite their friends from school to watch them do this. And they're super happy to get their first salary when they're like 16 or younger. Like, how can these two worlds exist together? Can they coexist? Like, or it's inevitable that a clash will happen between immigration, between generation one and generation two?
It's a hard question, because generation two are raised up differently. In their schools, they learn that there is nothing wrong with working.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do is correct. As long as you work and you do your job right, nothing is wrong with that. And this is a great concept to understand. So for families to get into argument with their daughter or son about the quality of work they are doing or what kind of job they are doing, and this is very not up to the standard that they expect them to be, it's I believe this is not healthy. Parents should accept the new world with its pros and cons, because working, there's nothing wrong with a job, with working in the kitchen, with doing the dishwasher, and with standing in the gas station. There is nothing wrong with that. What's the problem? He's a young person, he's working, he's earning his own money, he knows the value of money. He has he doesn't ask money from his parents. He doesn't tell them, oh, each week, oh, give me money, I want this, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. He's living the real world. Let them live the world. Don't put them in your shell. They have been in the shell. you got them to Canada, accept what Canada is like. Canada is the real world. The world is tough, and kids need to understand that nothing is coming easy. They will not be spoon-fed all the time. And it takes some time for parents to understand this concept, but eventually, from seeing many parents around me, they give up. They say, okay, let him do whatever he wants. And at the end of the day, generation two is the winner, because they quickly work, they can earn money, they eventually decide what they want, they identify their goals, they go to school, to university, to college, they start working immediately, because they already started knowing what they want to do. They know how the game is working. So I believe, like, parents have no say in this area, and they have to accept it.
And on the other hand, again, they would you'd have two parents who would never say good morning to each other, but their children are best friends. So I'll not tell him good morning. He would not greet me as well, because we have different cultural backgrounds, different religions, different beliefs, different political views, but our children are best buddies. And our children will grow up to tell us, I'm sorry, Dad, but you're a racist. I'm sorry, but I love my friend. I don't care if you see it differently. I'm sorry. You know,
Yeah, staying away from judgment, being judgmental is very important, because children are raised here differently. They understand that differences exist, and differences are to be respected, as long as no one is violating anyone's privacy, anyone's life, anyone's respect. So I saw this also with children. I have seen people who are really, they are like more of enemies, and their children share the same room at the dorm, and they're so happy. And there is nothing wrong with that, because the child has each child here is raised to have their own personality. They have their own beliefs, they have their own understanding of things, and schools encourage this efficiently in this area.
Shireen, really, thank you very much for being with me today. And as usual, it was a very interesting, I would say, discussion. Actually, I wouldn't say it's a strict official interview, but thank you very much for being with me today. And I believe our viewers have benefited a lot from you being with us. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Mohammed, and thank you again for hosting me. It was a
Always
pleasure.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you. And dear viewers, if we were to recap here, they always say the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And many people will live this illusion. So I've seen, but like too much of those people. They would say, "Oh, we were, things were, things were." Okay, how about going back to this heaven on earth that you left behind? No, I will not go. So what is wrong here? What is exactly so? Um, because deep inside, they know that they came to a much better place. That's why they're not going back. And actually, several people have tried to go back, and they regretted it like crazy. And of those who did not regret it, their children left them and came back to Canada. They left behind all this luxury because there is much more human luxury here than materialistic luxury that they would enjoy there. There, they might enjoy more materialistic luxury, but they lose huge human luxury that does not exist over there. It's not even less, it's non-existent there. So, like Shireen said, it's what do you want, really? Do you want to be more human, or do you want to be just richer? And even speaking of richness, like, did you ever wonder why people who carry citizenship from these advanced countries, why when they go back to these countries, why do they take much higher salaries? Because simply your value in these countries is your real value. So don't be fooled when you are over-evaluated in these other countries before coming here to Canada. But when you come here, this is your real worth. And this is your permanent worth. And if you go back there, you would be treated in a different way because here it is real life. All the world knows that this is the real life. Human is a human. So, again, unfortunately, many people would only appreciate a blessing once it's gone. So it's about time to recontemplate and appreciate what we have. Dear viewers, until we meet again, thank you very much.